Okay, I think we'll get started, inshallah. So I want to go through, I mean, you all should have sent me by now your proposals. And these should have been finalized thus far. Okay. Is there anybody who hasn't? I feel like everyone did. If anybody didn't, please raise your hand in the chat, inshallah. I know that some of you went back and forth with me about it. Yes, I know you have to. I'm sorry, Tariq. It's for your own good, wallahi. By the way, just as a general comment, some of you guys sent me proposals that I would love to read. I'd love to read those essays, but I have to think about also what the course is looking for. Hand. Suleiman, you still haven't sent one at all? Where's Suleiman gone?
Yeah, yes, I will be sending you momentarily.
Yeah, inshallah. Too busy trying to get somebody elected, huh? Okay, mesh. Okay, no, please do. So we won't go into your topic today, inshallah. Anybody else? I think everybody else sent me their first draft, inshallah. And some of you even sent me a second one, just in terms of the proposal. Okay, so we're going to use today, we won't be here for the full hour. Sorry, for the full 2 hours, inshallah. But I wanted to use today for two things. One, any questions, broad questions that people had about stuff that came up over the residential. Just broadly speaking, if anybody's got like some pressing question that they couldn't get answered at the time. The second is any further questions on their essays. Okay, because yes, you guys can email me, but I want to give you all the opportunity here to ask a question if you have one. And then depending on the time, we might go and I might ask all of you to just present your topic very briefly. But that'll be the way that we do it today, inshallah. So any burning questions about the residential? Okay. If anybody has, I mean, why can't I see everybody? Hold on. Mm, it's useful. Why can't I change? Okay, one moment. Okay. Well, for some reason I can see Tarek now. Why can't I see all of you though? Hang on. There we go. That should be much better. Okay, Tarek, go ahead.
So I don't have a Assalamu alaikum. So I don't have a question about the in-person session, but I want to be in line for questions about the essay. So
Okay. But Hard. That's good. You know, see this is why he's didn't he get an award for being for something like actually he got several awards, right? But this is why he is who he is. MashaAllah, thinking 2 steps ahead of the game. MashaAllah. Okay, Zubair, Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa
I also
rahmatullah.
don't have any question regarding the residence, but I have a question on the AC.
Okay, you're setting off a trend now. All right, Bismillah. All right, let me put it another way. Does anybody have questions about the residential? That's a no.
I didn't hear
Okay.
the last word. Question is about what?
I said, does anybody have any questions about the residential? Doesn't look like it. Okay, type mesh. Alhamdulillah. I hope you guys got as much out of the residential week in Chicago as I did. It was really nice to see all of you there. and to engage on the different topics. It's always good for the instructors to have students that are genuinely interested in the topic. So I'm glad that we had that opportunity, alhamdulillah. By the way, you're going to notice that I'm going to be looking up and down a lot over the next hour. That's because I'm talking to you here, but I've got all of you on another screen up there. Okay, so I promise you, I'm not looking at my favorite TV show or something in the background. Tayyip, all right. Questions about the essays. So, Tarek, you had your first question.
Yes. So yeah, so yeah, as you mentioned, you know, I've sent two different, well, slightly different topics.
Mhm.
Is there a way that I can maybe expound on previous essays or do some type of an amalgam between topics that is not focused on just one area? Is there, you know, can I intersect ideas constructing my essay?
You mean in terms of the two versions that you sent me?
Well, no, that's not what I was asking. But if there's an affirmative answer, then sure, yeah, I would like to consider that.
So my biggest this is a recurring issue that I've had with a few of the essay proposals that have been, you know, submitted thus far, which is, you know, mashallah, quite a few of them are really ambitious. And this is great, except you guys are doing like 3,000 word essays, you're not doing 30,000 word master's dissertations. So some of the essays, I just felt, you know, you wouldn't be able, time-wise, not time-wise, space-wise, to be able to get everything in there like that. If alhamdulillah, if I would, you know, I'm going to leave that to your prerogative based on our communication thus far. I'd strongly suggest you focus more on the second version than the first for the reasons that I laid out. And think very carefully about, you know, being concise. Remember, you guys are also graded on space, okay? So 10% up, 10% low, okay? Anything less, anything more, it becomes a problem. Inshallah. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Zubair. And then Zubair, then Tawheed. Okay. Zubair, we can't hear you.
Sorry
Okay.
about that. My question is regarding the bibliography. So I'm thinking that bibliography is not part of the 3,000 words. Is that correct?
It's not. It's not. The bibliography is not part of it. The footnotes is not part of it.
Thank you.
Okay. The footnotes is where some people cheat, but don't cheat. But the bibliography is not part. Actually, the 3,000. This is something else that, like, I try to tell some of you in the reaction papers. The quote unquote, how should we say, formal content doesn't count. And what I mean by that is that, like, your name, the name of the course, the date, you know, all that stuff doesn't count. Okay, it's about what you actually write as the essay. Okay, not the references. I want the references, and the references have to be there, and it's important. And like, general comment, everybody, pay attention to your referencing, pay attention to referencing style, pay attention to language. Okay, these are doctoral essays. All right, so they need to be written as such. Otherwise, you'll just get marked down. And I don't want anybody to get a bad grade. I want all of you to get good grades. I really do. I don't know if you all believe that, because I know that some of you think I'm a hard grader, but I do want all of you to get good grades. I really do. And I want you all to succeed. So if I'm a bit harsh on some of these things, then it's because I want to make sure that when we get to the final thing, that you do well. Hamza's asking, are we supposed to use Chicago style? I do not mind which style you use. I mind if you don't use one style throughout. So if you want to use Chicago, that's absolutely fine. If you want to use another recognized style, you know, then do so. And I think actually I sent you guys a web page early on, giving the different styles that were available to you. But the important thing is that you be consistent. Okay, don't mix and match. There's no talfiq that's halal in referencing. Okay. Okay. That was a really bad joke. Okay, anyway, alhamdulillah. Tawheed, bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Well, I have a couple of questions regarding the syllabus. We're not restricted to in our bibliography. I think something I saw where it said 3 or 4 different references for the $3,000 word paper.
I wish we were $3,000. I wish we all got $3,000 for writing these. But no,
Okay.
you can go outside the bibliography. Of course you can.
Okay.
In fact, if you do, as long as they're, I mean, this is part of the training that I hope, inshallah, you get, which is figuring out what other sources are also reliable. But yes, of course, you can go outside of bibliography, and if you do, then that's I would view that quite favorably because it shows that you're doing extra research.
Okay. Yeah, most of my references are outside of the recommended readings.
Tamam.
You know, but I had submitted you a long outline,
Yes.
and you were generous. I'm glad you said that I should shorten it. So I shortened it again. I sent you one, and so I've shortened it again. I'm sending you another one because to focus on scholars in the West, I appreciate that because that really condenses it, and you know.
I think it'll also be useful for you. By the way, your first version, and I said this to the rest of you right now, but your first version, I would have loved to read that essay. But I think that if you had tried to write that essay, there's no way you could have done it in 3,000 words except to be really, really brief. And then yani, you won't do justice to it. Yeah, you'd write
I know you are real critical in my estimation, but the reaction papers, you know, I sent you another reaction paper after a third reaction paper after you said it wasn't edited. So I don't know if you read it, and I don't know if it will help me out on that particular reaction for that week. You know,
let's focus on your essay. I'm really looking forward to that essay coming through. The topic is great. I'm glad that you've narrowed it down because then, alhamdulillah, you'll be able to go into more depth on it. On the references, I'm looking forward to seeing your bibliography. Keep in mind, I haven't seen any of the references because I didn't ask for those. You want to maintain a particular standard of reference, and I don't mean in terms of how you're like referring to them, but you know, books, journal articles, if media of like particular repute.
Okay, and you know, so mainly the actual references are mainly those scholars that you went over in class. You know, in this condensed version. So I will be using some of those, the Western modernists and the traditionalists that you named in class.
Bismillah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
And I will have the grammar together this time. Guaranteed.
Inshallah, ya Rab. Tariq, go ahead. Qasim?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. MashaAllah.
Yeah, so I was actually rose my hand when Sheikh Hamza asked this question about the Chicago style. So I've been using the MLA format, which is a valid format, but some of the feedback I got on the reaction papers were that you know, about citations and referencing. But I went back and I was checking that, and it looked like it was in line with MLA. Is that something that we can use, even though it's different than the Chicago style?
It is different than Chicago style, but even MLA, there's more information that should be in the reference, or in the bibliography, one or the other. And I didn't see that there. So if you're stuck on MLA, like, I mean, if that's your preference, it's not the most common, by the way. I mean, people far more, I think Chicago is far more common, but if you really want to do that, I would just double check to make sure, because in the bibliography itself, there wasn't the information that I think would have made the reference sufficient in order to, like, I mean, because if I remember correctly, you put the name and then you put the page. And there should be more information either in the citation itself or in the bibliography. But خير, يعني, as I said, any style, as long as it's a recognized style and you're consistent. Bismillah. Type. Any others? Okay, nothing there. Good. Oh, Eugene, Bismillah. Go ahead, Eugene.
Assalamu
Wa alaikum salam.
My
Wa
question
rahmatullah.
probably would get me going out of the group, but there's a couple of conflicting dates. So I wanted to really make sure I understand. When are we
Okay.
supposed to have these?
When are you supposed to have the essays done?
Yes.
Okay, so that should be the first full draft should be done, well, should have been done over this week. But that's just the draft of the essay. Okay. And I would have expected to see something this week. Everything that I've gotten from you guys so far doesn't indicate that we've gotten there yet. The final actual essay should be done by December 8th.
December 8th. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I got that date clear.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Alhamdulillah. Some of you gave, like, more flesh on the bone, as it were, than others. But it's fine. Alhamdulillah. The most important thing is that I mean, I was flexible on that because you're not going to be graded on those particular points, or rather that particular point. You'll be graded on the final paper. And you guys had the opportunity to, give something more fleshed out already. If you took it, then you took it. If you didn't, then you didn't. But the final essay needs to be around. Sorry, needs to be with me by December 10th. You're going to have one more session with me on December 8th. And on December 8th, if we have any outstanding sort of issues that you want to cover, then we can, because that I think is the last session that we have. Okay. طيب. You thought by asking that question, I'd be asking where are all your essays, didn't you? And that's why it wouldn't be me throwing you out of the class, it'd be everybody else coming after you. Alhamdulillah. Any other questions about the essays? Nami Cesar.
Thank you, Dr. Hisham. In terms of the draft that we are to present to you this week, what are your expectations, if I may ask? In my outline, I describe 8 areas that I wish to develop in my final essay. So I've been working on 2 or 3 ideas per point that I can present to you as a draft. Is that acceptable?
So thank you for the question, Cesar. Anything you guys send me this week, nobody's getting graded on anything. Okay, so it's not about acceptable. It's about you taking the opportunity to be prepared for the final essay. Okay, so you could send me the most complete version that you wanted, and you could send it to me, and you can send me an outline that's like a page or 2 page, and anything in between. Okay. my point about this particular phase in the course is to give you guys the opportunity to basically get one more look from me before you issue your final version, which I hope will be useful to you, because of course I'm going to be grading them afterwards, right? And you guys basically get a free shot at seeing what's going to work and what isn't going to work. And you can use that shot as you like. You could literally send me your final draft right now, and I will take a look at it, and then I'll tell you where I think you've gone wrong, and then you'll still have one more chance, because the real final draft isn't due until December 10th. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And Doctor, so our final class is on December the 1st or December the 8th? I'm confused.
Okay, that's a good question, because I remember changing this. So let me just make absolutely sure that what I said was correct. December 1st. You're
December
correct.
1st.
Yes, December 1st is our final class, and but the essay is December 10th.
December the 10th. Okay. Not December the 8th, December the 10th.
No. December the 8th was the original class. Sorry, it's good that you reminded me of that. I have it in my diary correctly, but just in my write-up, which I've been using, it still had the old date, and the old date was December 8th. So no, December the 1st is our final class. December the 10th is your deadline for the essays.
Thank you very much, though.
Thank you.
Canvas at December 13th, 11:59 p.m. Is that incorrect then for the final essay?
I don't. I see you, Tawheed. Let me just quickly sort this date thing out. I don't know where this December 13th comes from. I've got December 10th in the materials I got from Bayan. What are you looking at? Are you looking at Canvas or?
Yeah, the Canvas that has the final essay. It says December 13th by 11:59 p.m.
Okay, I don't have Canvas open right now. Does anybody else recognize this date of the 13th?
Yes, I do.
No, my reasons for asking the question.
I do.
Mine
Then
says 14.
yours says 14. Did you say 14th, Subir?
No,
I think time zone because of our.
It's
because of West Coast time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Then tell you what, I'm making an executive decision here, which I will take responsibility for. We're going to make it December 14th. Okay. Midnight, December 14th. Okay. Between midnight, wherever you happen to be. Okay. But December 14th. And then that gives you guys a few extra days. It's not a few extra days that has any impact on myself. So we're gonna do that, and I've put that into my own
Thank you for that extension, Professor.
Not at all. The only thing that we do have to do, though, is I need to make sure that in Canvas, that's changed so you guys don't have like late, okay, when you actually submit. So I'm going to send a message right now to indicate as such. Just one moment, because I want to make sure that this doesn't get changed up. Okay, that's gone across. So hopefully that should be fine. Okay, any other questions? Sorry, Tawheed. Yes, Tawheed.
Yes, my question is surrounding the essays format. Are you expecting an abstract, or can we go straight into the introduction?
Straight into introduction. No need for any abstract.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If you guys at any point want to send it, if you want to put in an abstract, do so. That's totally up to you. It won't help you one way or the other. But that's completely up to you. It won't count towards the word count. if you feel that putting in an abstract will sort of help draw attention to the overall argument of the essay, so I mean, so just to give you an idea, sometimes when I do long form pieces, I like to put in something that looks like an abstract at the beginning because I feel like it alerts the reader in a particular. Actually, you guys have come across Michael Cook, right?
Yes.
So Michael Cook just published this absurdly long, very good, mashallah, but this is absurdly long volume on Islamic history. And it's something crazy like 800 pages. Every chapter that at the beginning of a chapter, he has, it's almost like bullet points, like half a page of bullet points, where he's drawing people's attention to what he intends to cover. And he does that as a reading aid. It's literally a reading aid. But this is a short essay, so I don't think that you have any cause for that.
But if we include an abstract, it won't be held against us over the 3,000 word. Okay.
As long as you mark it as abstract, okay? Do mark it as abstract, but no, it won't count towards the 3,000 words, no.
Okay.
Cesar, did you raise your hand? Okay.
Yeah, this is just a technical questions for the class. Do the timings shown on Canvas are adjusted by the location?
I think they probably adjusted according to where they happen to be, right? So I think that makes sense actually, because I've seen that myself, that when I go into Canvas, it shows me my time. It doesn't show me Chicago time or LA time. I presume that's the same for all of you. That's probably why there's that change between December 13th and December 14th. I'm presuming that's what it is. But in any case, alhamdulillah, like, I mean, we're doing December 14th midnight. طيب. Anybody else? Oh, hang on. Got a message here. Okay. I'm making sure, by the way, as we're on this, to ensure that the date of submission is shifted to December 14. Okay. What else? Any other questions that people have? Cesar, go ahead.
Thank you, Doctor. In one of our classes in Chicago, you mentioned a book titled "The Islamic Struggle in Syria." Did I?
Yeah.
Is this book by Dr. Umar Farouk Abdullah? I think I.
Yes, it is. I have it somewhere here. I'm looking for it so you can see it, Cesar. But
I couldn't find it.
I was able to find one copy online, used copy.
Yeah, no, there won't be any new ones of that. That's for sure. Yeah, that's the version I have. I'm trying to find mine though. Beginning to wonder if somebody took my copy. But there you go. Adam, where did you get that copy?
So I found it's from old library book, and it was used on Amazon for like $20. But then after I bought it, the next available copy was listed at $250. So I got lucky.
That's what I
That's a steal, right?
And you have it, Dr. Hisham?
I have it here somewhere. I'm trying to see where it's gone. But I do have a copy somewhere. So you can borrow it from me if you want to, Cesar, but I don't think Dr. Omar would probably write that book in 2024.
No, but yeah, if I would be able to borrow it, I would appreciate it. deeply
Yeah,
for a
and
few
that,
days.
that would require you to actually visit me, which yani, you're scared to do. So, you know,
That's what I'm asking. The book is an excuse.
alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So yeah, I'll need to find it. I'm sure it's here. I'm sure it's here. Because I wouldn't have given that book away for very long. MashaAllah. Anyway, okay. طيب, any other questions? Okay. I know some of you were asking, by the way, when we were in Chicago about this whole like media session, and the discussions on that went to the point of possibly doing a workshop around the end of February. I think what was being proposed is either the 15th or the 22nd, something like that, because you guys will be in Chicago anyway on both of those dates. But I think we're still discussing that. If you guys are keen on it, though, I would recommend you get in touch with Dr. Jibril or Munir, or both, in order to confirm that that's something you guys would like to do. Or not, as the case may be. But I think you need to let them know, inshallah. Tight. All right. Okay. All right. You know, I'm very tempted to sort of just oh no, okay, fine, alhamdulillah. I don't want to put you guys on the spot about your essays if you don't want to present. Because I know that some of you are still fleshing out, but is anybody minded to actually bring up and present what they're considering right now?
I can.
Okay. Bismillah. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay, I have my my outline pulled up. So what really intrigued me the most about our discussions throughout this course, that I felt directly impacts the work that I have done with CARE Oklahoma, Council on American Islamic Relations, and also my personal development as a Muslim in America, where I feel that I can bring benefit to others, is the impact of Salafism, and particularly looking at it through a post 9/11 lens. So the title of my essay, A Critique of Salafism in a Post 9/11 America, and I broke it into three major sections. The first one is the origins of Salafism and Wahhabism in the modern world, to provide that background as to where it originated from, what's the foundations of the teachings relating that or connecting that to Ibn Taymiyyah. Why did it emerge? What are the possible theories as to why it emerged at the time it did? And that's generally Salafism, but then particularly also giving a focus to Wahhabism.
What?
Giving a focus to Wahhabism.
Sorry, what? I heard something. What was that? Did somebody say something by mistake? I heard like
I think that's what it was. Somebody's mic was accidentally hot for a second.
oh, okay, type mesh, alhamdulillah. All right. Sorry, go ahead, Adam.
Focusing at the end of this first section on the emergence of Wahhabism and its relation to not just the Muslim world, but also its impact on Islam in America. Section number 2 is the emergence of Salafism in America, with a focus on the pioneer of American Salafism, Muhammad Sayyid Adli, the growth of American Salafism, who were the pivotal figures and what were the pivotal organizations, such as Islamic Assembly of North America, Ali al-Tamimi, American Muslim Jurist of America, And then what happened in a post 9/11 world with regards to Salafism, with a focus on people like Anwar al-Awlaki, Al-Maghrib Institute, Yasser Qadhi and Omar Suleiman. And particularly, I'm intrigued by Yasser Qadhi's transformation from being a more pure Salafist to more of a modernist. I noticed he has a book coming out in
Yes, it
June
does.
of 2025, and I'm intrigued, to look at that when it gets released. And then the last section is to critique Salafism in a post 9/11 America. And in this section, I want to look at the benefits and the drawbacks to the existence of Salafism in America, because I don't want to paint a picture that it's like has a purely negative impact, nor that it has a purely positive impact, because I think the truth lies somewhere in between. I think there are benefits that Salafism has brought Muslims in America, but then given the social circumstances, I think there are definitely a lot of challenges. And I came across an article by Michael Muhammad Knight, who's an interesting character. And he talks about his perspectives on Salafism in a post 9/11 world. And that's what kind of led me to realize that there can be, both sides to this coin. And then in conclusion, where do we go from here? How does the American Muslim community continue to grapple with the reality that Salafism not only exists within the Muslim world, but exists within the American Muslim community? And are there ways to engage with Salafism that can lead to a positive evolution for American Muslims? So that's my outline in summary.
Very good. I also am looking forward to Yasser Qadhi's book, which unfortunately will not be available for, until next summer. I think we have the same publisher though, so I'm hoping to get a sneak peek, but I don't think it'll be that much earlier than the rest of you. And it's long, so it'll go into a lot of depth. I think on Amazon it says like 600 pages or something. So it's a hefty tome. Looking forward to it, inshallah. So it's a shame you won't be able to incorporate any of that, but
I did find some good podcast interviews with him though on the topic, which I actually, that's a good question about the essay. Can we use interviews and take the transcript and use those as references?
You can. So the way that you would do it is, for instance, if it's on YouTube, then you need to have the URL. You should have the date when you accessed it. Not necessarily the time, but you should have the date. And just have like full information about the podcast. So if it's a podcast, what's the name of the podcast? If there's a name for that particular episode, try to put that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. By the way, I mean, you can also do this if you want, but Yani, this should not make up the bulk of your references. I happen to know he's pretty approachable. So if you got in touch with him, you had a question, and he gave you an answer, then you simply put personal correspondence with Yasser Qadhi and then put the date.
Okay.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
If you wanted to. I mean, you're not required at all, but if you wanted to do that, then you can do that, inshallah. Okay. Anybody else want to go ahead? You're not being tested for this, but I'm giving you guys the opportunity.
I'll go ahead.
Bismillah. Go ahead.
Bismillah. My actual paper, my study is analytical comparison between Islamic traditionalism and neo-traditionalism in the West. We narrowed it down to the West, giving an introduction and a definition of what traditional Islam is, and also a definition of what neo-traditional Islam is. And then we will explain the main purpose of this comparison. Giving we give a historical context, the origins of traditional Islam versus the emergence of neo-traditional Islam, the modernity and political changes. Also, we will, number 3, deal with the theological foundations of traditional Islam foundational beliefs, and also neo-traditionalism Islam. And we'll talk about, all right, you all right?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Okay. So
Yarhamukallah.
traditional Islam. And 4, we deal with social and political engagement, of looking at both sides of the spectrum in the West, as far as the impact of traditional Islam in the West, the historical role in government and societal customs. Also, this is the long version, which I'm condensing. And we'll deal with both sides of the spectrum. Number 5, education and scholarship, traditional Islamic education, classical scholarship, and the approaches to training. And then the same, we'll do analysis on the neo-traditional instruction and the incorporation of contemporary education in the West and the practices. And lastly, number 6, we'll deal with the critiques and the challenges, the critiques of traditional Islam and the critiques of neo-traditional Islam, how each navigates modernity without losing its legitimacy. And so we'll conclude with summary of the main points of difference and the similarities. Pretty much that's it, but we will take some things out because we're gonna stretch the limits. That's pretty much.
Excellent. I'm really looking forward to this. Alhamdulillah. There's a lot to cover, but I think your own sort of read on both of those movements and comparing and contrasting them is going to be very interesting, inshallah. طيب, anybody else?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Go ahead.
Yeah, my topic is looking at the critical analysis of America's use of religious soft power as a foreign policy in the Middle East, but I'm narrowing it down to 3 specific countries: Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Iraq. And
Iraq? Did you say Iraq or Iran?
Iraq.
Okay.
And I chose these 3 countries as my case study because, number 1, the strategic location of and then the relationship that these countries have with United States. We all know the standpoint of Saudi Arabia in the Middle East, Egypt also. So I want to look at the background information regarding whether the U.S. uses religious soft power as part of the national policy or just in addition to its foreign policy. So I want to kind of delineate that. And then also I would take each country. If I take a look at Saudi Arabia, Wahhabism comes in there as part of the governance in that country. So the U.S. approach in Saudi Arabia is not going to be the same as it will approach Egypt. In Egypt, we know Egypt is a very vibrant, and also there's multiplicity, there is diversity, and then there is ulama and Azhar, etc. But compare that to Saudi is one Wahhabism, and then you have the monarchy. And then if you go to Iraq is a very, very different basket. You know, there's a lot of strife here. You have the Shi'i, the Sunni dichotomy and all that. So I'll look at that, and then I'll look at the impact of U.S. Foreign policy use of religious soft power in these countries. How did it impact the people? How did the citizenry react to it, right? And then what was the outcome, right? The credibility is there, right? The loss of credibility is there in the guise of people looking at the U.S. as trying to come in with Western-style democracy and Western-style multi-religious thing. So it's kind of looked as an imposition on Islam, right? And also it also raises the issue of which religious group are you going to talk about, especially when you come to Egypt, for example, right? Which one, which really represent Islam? So I want to look at that that aspect as well. And then I believe finally, if I can share something here. Yeah, I'll also look at the challenges, right? What challenges did that present when in using religion as a soft power? In between also, I'll kind of differentiate between religion as a soft power culture and then also as opposed to the physical power, right? The amount of resources it takes to win the religious soft power as opposed to physical military power, which doesn't take much time. I mean, all of them take some time, but I'll look at that as well. And then my conclusion would be suggestion for future, what didn't work, and the future policy in terms of using religion as a soft power.
Very good. Looking forward to that. Type any. By the way, Zubir, when you do this, it doesn't need to be a central key point in your essay, but do try to find some way to, for your own benefit, okay? To link this to existing issues in the United States, okay? And it doesn't have to be much, but it will be of benefit to all of you that as you do the essay, even if it's in a small way, that you relate this to American Muslims. And it could be as simple as American Muslims are impacted by soft power, soft power religious politics because they are impacted by those different institutions. It can be something very, very small, but make the framing include that. It doesn't need to be the framing, but it would be good to include it in the framing. Okay. طيب.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm getting the better deal here, guys. I get to read all these. All right. طيب. All right, Eugene, Bismillah.
All right. So I'm going to be looking at the influence of the Wahhabi ideology, particularly within the African American community, and how the issue with struggles with identity and also the fact of building resilience and how that plays out amongst the African American community. If we're looking at it in a more structured sense, after looking into the history and the advent of Wahhabism within the African American community, I want to take a look at why and how has this become such an attractive option within the African American community and some of the sociological reasoning behind that. Then I also want to look at how this has negatively affected the community as well, because we know that there's been a lot of struggle and conflicts in regards to having this propagated amongst the African American community. But I also want to look at how social media has been used to disseminate, and also how can it be used to counter the influence of the Wahhabiyya within the African American community, and looking at the impact and the receptiveness of young people, young Muslims, and how they have been connected to this ideology, even if they came from a more traditional Ahlus Sunnah background, and they became more focused and acclimated towards following this ideology, particularly through social media and these different channels where there's a lot of propagation going on today. And also looking at, again, going back to understanding how this has affected identity formation, self-esteem, all of these different topics that come up in terms of grappling with that as well. But then also looking at how countering this influence and the resistance to it can also impact positive identity formation and allowing young African American youth, as well as others who are affected by this ideology, to be able to find some sense of self-worth and self-esteem in regards to how that works out. And then looking in the conclusion of it, also, I want to go back and give a call to actually want to try to figure out how we can amplify some of the most successful initiatives and methods that are being used to counter this ideology. And there's going to be a lot more that goes within that, but that's the general outline of what I'm working with right now. I'm still working through the material. Question, I know because of the time constraints that we have, there are some people that I'm going to be looking to talk to. So would these interviews, these anecdotal interviews, be able to be incorporated into what I want to do?
Yes, but time, you don't have much time. So if you do, then just make sure you reference properly. So that simply means that you put the name of the person, unless they wish to be anonymous. If they're going to, by the way, some of your interviewees, this is just good practice, more generally. If you're going to have an interview, then you should get their permission. Okay, in writing. All right.
Okay.
So you get
that be
permission.
incorporated as like part of the endnotes bibliography type thing.
No. Of course not. La. But it's an appendix. Okay, and I want the appendix will be for you. Okay, but you should have their permission in writing.
Okay.
It's good to Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. It would be good to have an audio recording. Okay. And what's really good, you don't have to do this, but this is good anyway. Any material that you do use of theirs, as in, let's say you spoke to them for 5 minutes, which means you have like, I don't know, 1,000 words worth of stuff, but you only use like 100 words. Then it'd be good to send that 100 words back and just like clear with them, but you don't have to do that. Okay, because also that can be a time issue, but you do need to have their permission. I mean, just to give you an idea, I did an hour-long interview, I think 2 months ago, 3 months ago, about October 7th for BBC, for an hour-long program they were doing. It's called Panorama. The final edit, I think, at about 45 seconds of my interview. Like they had 15 seconds, 15 seconds, 15 seconds at 3 different points. That's very common. Okay. They didn't come back to me and say, we're going to use this, this, and this. They just had me sign a release at the end of the interview saying, I accept that they can use the material. Okay. Now, in terms of referencing, you put their name. If they don't wish to have their names put in, that's absolutely fine. But you need to have a record somewhere, but just for you, that, person A.T, okay? Like you need to have a way to anonymize them, but anonymize them in a way that it's a code for you to be able to reference. Okay. So let's say you interviewed 5 people and they were all anonymous. Okay. Then you put in the bibliography person 1 or person AX or whatever. Okay. You have a separate file that you don't show to me. You don't show the file to me. But you have a separate file where you say AX means Anthony X-ray or something, I mean, have something there. And that's so that if in the future you need to verify that this is what this person said, then you can do so.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. The method of communication is also pretty good. So like sometimes people do written interviews. Okay. So like you email me and I respond. Okay. You can put like email correspondence. Sometimes it'll be over the phone. Sometimes it'll be on Zoom, whatever. Okay. Like it's good to have that information in there. Most important thing is the date and the person, unless they're anonymous. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody want to give like a breakdown of their own essay?
I just had a quick question.
Bismillah. And then Cesar. Then Cesar.
Yeah, just listening to everybody and their outlines about in the West, in America, etc. how specific can we get on these essays? In other words, can we talk about the context of our local city and the community we're involved in? And then maybe even a personal story. I mean, we talked about the personal story as evidence or support of our argument.
As supporting evidence, yes, but these aren't obviously, like, the essays aren't narratives. Okay, so they're not talking your personal story. If you want to include a bit of your personal story or a personal story in order to back up the argument or back up the point, then that's fine. But not to do it too much, because that's not really that's not the meat and bones of an academic essay, and it is an academic essay. Okay, so certainly, like in the best academic books that I've read, I always find there to be some sort of personal touch, and it sort of humanizes the work, but only a little bit. If you go past that point, then irrespective of your intention, it looks like you don't have any, like, hard argument or proper evidence that is more objective, more impartial, less subjective, and less about you. Sorry, Cesar and then Tarek. Can't hear you, Cesar.
Oh. Does
There you go.
Ibrahim want to go as well, or?
Cesar, you go ahead first, and then Tarek wants to speak.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor. Well, I'm very happy because I see a lot of similarities in some of the essays presented, say by Adam, Eugene, Imam Tawhid. I have a tentative title for my essay, which is Knowledge and Authority in American Islam, Traditionalism, Neo-Salafism, and the Role of Dawah in U.S. Muslim convert communities. So I'm very interested in analyzing the impact of traditionalism and Salafism in convert communities, mostly in Hispanic of Latin American Muslim communities. So I want to do a survey of Dawah literature and multimedia within convert communities, the intersection of Dawah and identity, and the phenomenon of cultural appropriation and assimilation. And I want to concentrate more on the teachings of and works of Dr. Omar Farouk Abdullah and Omar Suleiman, and their impact, and the impact of their teachings on convert communities, that I think is vast and very relevant and important.
Okay, that's an interesting comparison to make. I haven't seen anybody do that. That sounds interesting. Bismillah, looking forward to it. Dr. Omar and Dr. Omar. All right, good. Tariq, go ahead.
Okay. So we're not expected to follow, I guess, the normal journalistic guidelines in sense of trying to be objective, and that we are able to argue a point in our analysis, provide analysis, but that supports the thesis of our essay.
So I understand your question. I think your question is a little bit different than what you intend. So you are expected to be objective,
right?
But that doesn't mean you can't make an argument. It just happens to be that you think that objectively this is what works. So I do expect that if you make a claim, you back it up. Okay, you back it up with a reference, but a solid reference, not like some, I mean, this again is like part of what you'd be graded on. Are you using, reputable sources, or are you using, Reddit? I mean, to have, like, an elaboration there, right? So there is that, but you are not journalists should not be, for example, making arguments. They need to be reporting the story, right? You're making an argument, and I expect you to make an argument. Actually, if you don't make an argument, there's a problem. Okay.
Right.
So yes, make an argument. And this is also something I want you all to like keep in mind. I'm not looking for description here as the bedrock of an essay. Yes, of course you have to describe certain things, but these essays ought not to be descriptive in and of themselves. They should be descriptive in order to provide evidence for a point. Okay? Make an argument. And the argument should be something that's backed up by the description or the evidence or the references or whatever.
Okay. So I told you I was gonna, I went back and I'm thinking about the critique you gave in terms of kind of tailoring it more towards what we've covered. So the general idea of looking at, and I didn't frame it this way in the outline I sent you, but the idea of looking at the pursuit of traditional Islamic knowledge and how that impacts particularly Muslims in America, how that impacts a sense of moral geography and its impact on political priority and identity, but doing an analysis of a comparison, if you will, between Black American Muslim and immigrant born or communities, so to speak. And is that does that sound like too much to try to break down?
It depends how you do it, because it's 3,000 words, so you might be able to do it, you might not. I mean, it's go ahead and try. You've got a month, see what you can do. I really caution, by the way, all of you guys, don't leave these too late. Okay. I know you all have full-time jobs and other things on your plates. Me too, especially right now. But do try to give yourselves the best shot. I've tried to give you guys the most flexible and as widest kind of opportunity to be able to what's the expression? Try it out and use me as a sounding board so that when we come to the final thing, you guys have the best shot, inshallah. So I hope you take full advantage. Bismillah.
Okay, shukran.
Af.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Why can't I see? Oh, whoops. Hang on. Just 1 second. There we go. Ibrahim, go ahead.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum everyone.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So my topic is the development of Muslim reforms in America. And I said Sheikh Hamza Yusuf as a case study. So when I have that topic, my intention, I still don't know whether it's going to work out or not, but to reach out to him, to interview him. He actually came to Houston a couple of times, which I was fortunate to meet him in person. And so I've reached out to a friend who can link me up, but it's still in the pipeline. So that's the topic. What I intend to do about that, I know we mentioned in class that he converted at early age, maybe 17 or 18, and the fact that he's a white Caucasian. Sir?
I think he was younger. I think it was like 15 or 16, actually. I could be wrong.
Okay, yeah. And being a Caucasian, a white person, also, converted at that age, also, I won't say bring Islamic credibility, but, So I want to reach out and see what impact do we have for somebody like him. And I know he has mentioned a couple of things, even physically when I met him, whether he still hold on to that position or not. But in terms of reforms, I know for sure that the fact that we have so many things that people argue about, and for him, speaking in particular tone, people listen to him. I listen to him a lot. I, did so many khutbah, tapping from his message. So I really want to dwell much about his impact in America for we Muslims. And I also want to discuss about the criticism, people who criticize him, and is it okay? Is it not okay? Are they valid what they are criticizing me about? Do we still have that error or the mistake going on around us, even though people criticize him? So I want to mention that. And I also want to refer to other reformers that we have. You know, we talk about Diobandi, we talk about Wahhabism, and I want to inject my own country too. In Nigeria, we have a particular figure that we also look up to. So all these people who have made impact in terms of how Muslims do things is what I intend to write about.
Okay, khair, inshallah. So two things. One, doing a case study, if you're going to do a case study, I would stick to the case study, and I wouldn't bring in too much about, for example, what you mentioned in terms of your own country and other figures there, unless you're comparing and contrasting, in which case you should compare and contrast preferably throughout. So that, because otherwise you're going to end up, let's say, 80% on the case study and then very little on these other figures, and it won't be very balanced. So that's just about space. The other thing is, there's one alarm that I want to sound for you. You have 1 month to do this. I find it very unlikely that you'll be able to get in touch with Hamza Yusuf and conduct an interview and be able to incorporate that as part of your case study in that amount of time. If you do, mabruk, I mean, then you will have accomplished something that I think a lot of people will be very envious about. But I wouldn't bank on that happening in that period of time. He's obviously, like, very how should we say, heavily oversubscribed. So I wouldn't want you to sort of bank on that, and then you come to a week or two before the submission date, and you're like, oh no, I don't have that. So my advice to you is to assume that you won't get it, because it gets started and right, but still pursue it, and then if mashallah, you do get some sort of communication, then you can incorporate that.
Yeah.
Tamam.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. I'm looking forward to it. طيب. Anyone else?
Yes, Dr. Hellyer, where should I email? Which email address should I use to send you the outline?
So if you guys put it into Canvas, it gets to me. If you guys send it to hhhellyer@bayan, it gets to me. If you guys send it to not the quickest, I want to say probably the most surefire way to make sure it gets to me sooner rather than later is my own personal address, which I think you guys have. But technically, you should be writing to the Bayan address or stick it into Canvas. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
I think Canvas, you kind of have your cake and eat it too, in that I think Canvas sends everything to my nominated email, which is my email. But then you're dealing, I mean, it's just good practice that people deal with the institutions, right? So having said that, I found that sometimes my Bayan email doesn't show up for a while. I'm not sure why. But anyway, so you pick, inshallah. If you like, send to both, and then that way you're covered, huh? Cool. Okay. Alhamdulillah. So we're going to shift now. Cesar is going to start his class early, and we're all going to join his class. Okay, Cesar, start your class. All right. I'm going to let you guys go, inshallah.
That was a good joke. That was a good joke.
That was the first good joke I've made all semester, isn't it? My kids tell me, like, old dad jokes long before I was an old dad, but there you go. Alhamdulillah. Most of you have kids, so and most of you are dads. The mothers, mashallah, they have better senses of humor anyway, but the old dads were the ones that we get beaten up by our daughters. Alhamdulillah, that's the sunnat al-hayat. That's the way it's supposed to be. All right, everybody. If you guys have any questions, you let me know, inshallah. And I'm looking forward to seeing your essays. And I hope to see you guys in Feb. But if I don't, then at least I will see you online in in a month's time, inshallah. Barakallahu fikum.
Inshallah.
Stay
Thank you.
safe.
You're
Stay